Thank you ever so much. And guys, it is fantastic to be here again. Really excited to be giving you the results today. Quick overview of the session for everyone who's just joining. We'll hear briefly from our 4 judges who have been looking at the pitch decks, hearing a brief kind of overview of the hackathon from their point of view, and maybe a little bit of an insight kind of on why they're passionate about the space. So we're going to hear a little bit from them. Then we will get to the those all-important announcements of the rankings of the 3 teams that we saw pitch yesterday. And I think that's the main 2 agenda items on this session. Just as everyone trickles in then, and as a recap for what happened yesterday. So the RegTech4GoodChallenge is what we're here talking about. And over 50 participants registered and were taking part, and they all submit decks on how they could help vulnerable customers spread all across Africa. Those decks were whittled down to 3 decks by our judges. Our judges then heard those 3 superb teams pitch yesterday. One team on improving the vulnerable customers' financial literacy, another one on how we can use APIs to detect those vulnerable customers, and a 3rd team talking about actually how we can help vulnerable people maybe do some investing. So heard that yesterday. It's been absolutely fantastic to be a part of this. So without further ado, I want to throw it over to maybe one of our first judges, maybe just to give a brief overview of kind of their thoughts, and to talk about kind of an area maybe they're a little bit passionate to. Just looking at my screen, Sujata, you happen to fall at the top, so gonna send it to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, Ollie. It was great to be part of the judging panel for the hackathon, and was really pleased to see the variety of solutions that were proposed around the problem of vulnerable customers, and really seeing their proposals and see how they evolved over the few days as well was fantastic. So I'm just going to start to maybe just share some comments and things like that, and provide some of my thoughts on the presentations. So the first team that presented was Team 1, and I was super impressed with the concept. Really nice idea around education for the youth, and there was a kind of idea about the demo, so being able to simulate your financial decision making. There was a community element to it, which I thought was really interesting, and also there was a really a nice roadmap as to how the product would be validated and developed. So really interesting proposition there, which I thought would have a lot of potential social impact. Team 3 presented an AI model, which was really nicely thought out too, very commercial in the sense of being able to charge for API calls, and then being able to sell that to small businesses and larger businesses alike. So another great proposition there. And then the last one, Team 5, which is about providing access to investing through an investment app. I think for me that one was beautifully done with wireframes, and there was a lot of thought about the product itself. And I think on that one in particular, I think there was a need to kind of maybe go into a little bit more information about how the product would support our vulnerable user base for this challenge, maybe thinking through some of the concepts around education, risk management, and supported investment decision making for the long term. So those are my comments. Really good presentation. So thank you so much to all the teams who put those together. I'd just like to maybe share a little bit more about the context and why I'm here, and really why I feel that there's a lot of potential in coming together with these sort of ideas. And as a kind of former founder of my own startup and marketplace, having gone through that process of really thinking of an idea and working with other team members to kind of develop that. So just coming to the team members, I'd like to kind of say, you know, if you are going to go on and commercialize some of these ideas, I'd love you to think about how you hone your skills yourself as team members, how you really kind of develop the technology element as well as the business element. And that means thinking about things like, how big is the market? Are you able to kind of identify specific customer segments with that, and then start to test with those customer segments? And I think one thing that you will probably hear from a lot of founders is there a way I can validate my ideas with those customers without actually building everything up front? So you don't need to go to the customer with everything up front, but maybe you can start with wireframes and say, I'm thinking about building something like this. Is this something that would help, or you would be interested in buying? And trying to iterate the product at the early stage with low fidelity concepts. The second thing I would talk about is raising capital. I know that's something that's expanding within Africa. The amount of money that's going into the fintech sector is rising rapidly. So really thinking about not just money, but also who you want to partner with. Are there people who you really believe in your goals and will support you in that journey to building and commercializing and landing this product? Not just there's a big brand name with a great name, but what kind of partner could I get from this? And also, do I really need to raise external capital? Can I build a sustainably revenue generating business or fund it in other ways to create that viability? And then lastly, I think just thinking about go-to-market strategy. We saw some really interesting propositions there, all very different, so they'd all have very different kind of approaches. So if you are interested in taking them forward, happy to spend a bit more time with each of you and thinking through how to do that. But overall, really impressed, and thank you so much for inviting me to take part and judge today.
Thank you ever so much, Sujata. Really, really insightful there, and I think some words that the whole of our audience here can really take to heart and think about for the future. Just moving swiftly on then to our next judge. Kevin, you've fallen under Sujata's picture on my screen. So it would be great to hear what you thought about some of the pitch decks, and then also maybe just hearing a little bit about why you're interested in this space, why this is an area that's something you really believe in.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I missed the pitching session yesterday because I was coming back from a trip. But I did spend some time with the judges going over the decks and discussing the different opportunities. I think my feedback was a lot of the solutions were quite innovative in the sense that the timeframes they had to come up with the idea and sort of think it through was quite impressive. I think I would give the decks that I saw, to make a bit more emphasis on the business model, in the sense of who's the customer that's going to use this service, right? So that and who's willing to pay for the service that you're sort of designing. Because then you sort of can then calculate how big that market is and then see how big the opportunity is, while at the same time solving for a very important problem or sort of notion of identifying vulnerable people. I think there should be also an emphasis on financial literacy. And the person who figures out how to offer financial literacy solutions in a viable commercial model, I think is going to be a billionaire, simply because of how much education opportunity there is, but so little willingness to I don't know if it's willingness or we've just not figured out the model yet. The reason I'm passionate about RegTech, I think it's an interesting time in Africa. We've got a lot of countries that have recently passed data protection laws, new fintech laws, and different new laws that are for the digital economy. And I think part of going digital is trying to figure out what can we start solving for with on the RegTech side, to solve some of the RegTech issues. Is it algorithms like some of the stuff we saw? Is it many ideas. But the reason I think I'm passionate about it is because this is the time to solve these problems. Because there's a lot of new laws, a lot of people don't know how that's going to be enforced and regulated. And then, so yeah, my 2 cents. I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kevin. And it is for sure, it is a really exciting time in the RegTech space, the fintech space, and really just especially in the space in Africa, it's really exciting to see. I think Sujata also mentioned it, that just the money starting to come in and become a viable option to set up a business in Africa that can really not just affect the one continent, but affect the world and can be a leading player now. Tunde, I guess same question to you. How did you find the decks, and how come you wanted to be a part of dealing with this vulnerable customer piece?
Thank you very much, Oli, and it's good to have had the privilege, and I thank the conference organizers for the opportunity to be a part of this. I'll talk first on the teams. Really, really great work within a short period. I know it's not an easy thing to just be given a topic and try to come up with a business model. So I commend the effort of the teams. Team 1 specifically trying to solve the problem of bringing awareness and education to the vulnerable customers by tapping into gamification or some model of that. It's really innovative, and they were able to at least understand that there is a lot of whether it's donor funds or funds that are being pumped in by central governments, etc., to try and address that problem of inclusion and also addressing the problem of vulnerability. A lot of people don't know a lot about finance and banking and how money works. So finding a way to solve that is not only a problem for the bottom of the pyramid, it's even a problem for, you'd be surprised, bankers. So I like the fact that they found a way to get those segments of people that are vulnerable engaged and solve a critical problem that's important for financial inclusion. Team 2, bring in the whole concept of AI to try to bring if you will, better customer acquisition to businesses is also onto something great. The power of AI cannot be underestimated. There is certainly a problem that cannot be solved by humans, that is better solved by machines, and trying to find a way to solve that is something novel. I think that if that is pursued and there could be a way to monetize it, it may do a lot of good. And of course, Team 3 that is trying to bring alternative finance, alternative investment, I should say, to the broader Africa market and vulnerable consumers is also critical, because having a way to grow your money better and faster may change the fortunes. I dare say that if those vulnerable customers have a way to invest in better markets in a way that is simple enough, maybe their economic fortunes can be turned around much faster. So that is something innovative. And I think finding a way to do it at scale, at a low cost structure, in a way that solves a problem for everyone will be something that will be very, very phenomenal. Generally, I'll just say, I'll advise the different teams to consider that you don't always need capital to solve all the problems. Capital is certainly important, raising capital, but having a very, very well-refined business model. And you don't need to solve a lot of problems. Think about, where is the pain? Where is the problem? Where's the opportunity? Because someone's going to pay for that. And as you think about this vulnerable segment, you have to be passionate about them. You have to think about not just the economic return of the business you're building, but also the problem that you're solving, and being able to express that passion, because that passion is what attracts the talent that's going to support the business, people that are going to support the idea and believe in the vision that you have and be willing to jump on and take a risk with you. So that's very critical, whether it's capital or human resources that are going to be joining the business. And I'll also add that as you think about this problem, and you think about it specifically around RegTech, understand that data is going to be the future, and being able to secure that is as good as securing money. And cyber is a huge problem. And if you're thinking about the problem of regulation and you find a way to just protect people and not just their money, but their information, that's going to be something that's going to pay huge dividends in the future. Personally, why I'm passionate about this is I just think there are a lot of people who are vulnerable. And as those of us who are practitioners in the fintech industry and who have done this for decades and been involved in our careers, understand you don't need to be vulnerable to lose money. You just need to be ignorant one time. So anything that we can use to protect as those of us who are custodians or who have fiduciary responsibility to protect the less vulnerable in our community, it would make the world a better place. So I think if we address that problem on the continent of Africa, there's so much innovation that can start from Malawi and go all the way to Lagos in Nigeria, or start from Egypt and go all the way to Cote d'Ivoire. So that will raise the economic standard of living. It will certainly impact a lot of lives, and anything that impacts lives and can connect to the welfare of people on the continent is something that I'm passionate about. So I'm really excited to be a part of this. And I really, really wish the teams good luck as they pursue their dreams and continue to put the energy behind these ventures. Thank you.
Superb. I guess I'm just echoing the sentiment there that anyone could be a vulnerable customer at any moment. It takes one bad decision, one poor moment, and you don't know where your life is. This solution is for all the people who are the solutions that people are coming up with are for all the people in a bad financial scenario. But I think it's quite easy to forget sometimes that anyone could be there at any one moment, and it is such an important area to be dealing with. I guess, again, our final judge then is Ashoke. Obviously, I think everyone, if you're watching this, knows how involved he's been throughout the whole RegTech Africa event, but would still be great to hear what you thought of the teams, Ashoke, and maybe why the vulnerability part and why that coming together with RegTech is so important to you.
Yeah, I'd say why the vulnerability part, because this is RegTech Africa, right? So I always emphasize that when we think about payment systems, infrastructure, when you're in India, when you're in the US, when you're in Europe, when you're in Africa, you think very differently, right? The experience in Northern Africa, East Africa, and Western Africa is so very different. And there's a lot of vulnerability here, right? Not just financial, but in many other ways in consumer business interaction. I'll just take in from something that Tunde said, and I'm also very passionate about, right? And that's problem solving. I remember as a kid, a relative said to me, don't always be a problem solver. I think I read my first resume in high school, like, don't say problem solving, because then all you see are problems. Well, today we have unicorns, billion-dollar businesses being built out of solving problems, right? Out of being able to distill what happens in an entire ecosystem or in one niche area, right? And the better they're able to distill and define what that problem is to its most minute detail, the more valuable the solution that they're able to build. I think my parting words for all the contestants, all the contenders, and those who made it here and those who have not, is to think about the word solution, right? Oftentimes, we have an idea in our mind of what we want to build, what I want to offer. Well, that's just a tool, right? Because a solution only, for something to be a solution, it has to be solving something. And the thing we tend to be solving is the problem, right? And don't focus on the problem that you want to solve, right? So don't be the hammer looking for a nail, right? Or anyone here a lawyer? Don't be the lawyer always looking for a lawsuit, so to speak. It's got to be the problem that the people who you want to serve and the people who you want to take their money, right? Those you want to exchange value with, right? What problems are they having? And I think we saw that through in all the pitches that we saw, from the problems around literacy, to the problems around other investment, opportunities for investment, what have you. And I think ultimately what we will find is that the business model that will perhaps do well or do best is the one where they remove themselves from the problem, right? And they're focused on how do I help this consumer, the person who's going to use my solution, or who will pay for my solution, right? At the end of the day. So again, problem. Thank you so much.
Superb. Thank you so much, Ashoke. I think insights there from all of our judges, truth be told, on just if if you're considering coming up with an idea that's going to try and revolutionize the world, there's just some great insights from these 4 individuals alone on from the problems to the opportunities in the area right now. It's really, really fantastic to be part of this. Moving, I guess, swiftly on from that, some rather insightful comments to actually the results of the RegTech for Good challenge. Since I've always wanted to have some sort of be involved in some sort of dramatic moment, so I thought we'd count up from the 3rd team up to the winner. So in the 3rd place team, it was Team 5 for their solution that's offering the alternative investing for vulnerable customers. Guys, it really, really interesting pitch. I think all the judges here, and myself included, really enjoyed the solution you'd come up with. Then the second place team was Team 3 with their API to identify and help acquire vulnerable customers for banks. Again, a super, really innovative and really cool solution. Obviously, identifying vulnerable customers is the first step in any journey to being able to help them. So a really, really valuable solution. And I guess I've ruined the suspense by saying that teams 5 and 2 are 3rd and 2nd, but the winners are Team 1 for their solution in the improving financial literacy. I think all our judges agreed that kind of the desire to gamify and really try and create a solution which is valid across the whole of Africa to help improve financial literacy is just invaluable and a really worthy winning solution. Just as a final point of housekeeping for those teams, it would be fantastic. Please message Amrit on the platform, on social medias, via email, just to make sure you can redeem the prizes. I think the final kind of note from me is we have a special guest in Cyril here, the CEO of RegTech Africa, who I think just wants to say a few brief words. Cyril, over to you.
Oh, just to say very briefly, very big congrats to all 3 winners for a very good job done. We followed closely the entire process. It was a highly competitive process. And I would say that given the short time, the constraints we have a long time, I mean, the teams did fantastically well. Congrats to team 1 for that brilliant idea. We want to take this certainly forward, even in subsequent editions of the RegTech Africa conference. We want to have more participation on the hackathon. We believe strongly that the RegTech4GoodChallenge is one initiative that we can use to discover raw talent and that we can also use to promote homegrown solutions that are actually solving the real pain points for both regulators, for stakeholders, the financial institutions, and most importantly, for the consumers, because we believe that at the end of the day, the consumers are at the center of everything that we do. Thank you very much, and do have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you, Cyril. Really, always great to hear from you, and I think the teams appreciate it too. I think that's a wrap on the RegTech for Good challenge this year. So yes, really, I can see Kevin clapping, and I'd like to echo the same. And the judges, I don't know if you can all be seen, are all clapping. And yeah, honestly, the team's fantastic job. I just want to take this moment to thank all the 50 plus people who spent their time to submit solutions, whether those made it to the whichever stage those reached. It's always, even speaking about this, bringing people to talk about this is a win. People need to be considering this solution and thinking about how they can make a difference. Outside of those 50 people, I want to thank our 4 judges. We've all heard really great things from them today, and they've given up quite a lot of their time to really think about the solutions. So a massive thank you from me, and I think all of the participants would say the exact same thing. And a final thanks from me to the RegTech Africa event. It's been fantastic collaborating for this hackathon. The RegTech for Good Challenge couldn't have happened without, I think, a lot of people spending some time and putting work in together. So it's just another great story about how working together really can generate some really cool solutions. So yes, without further ado, thanks again. Hopefully we will see you all next year or at another hackathon or RegTech for Good Challenge, whatever it be, very soon. And thank you.